You're grounded until you apologize to your stepmom. My dad barked loud enough that the entire family went silent, forks frozen in midair, eyes snapping toward me like I'd just committed some unforgivable crime. I remember the heat rushing to my face, my hands shaking under the table, my heart pounding so hard it felt like everyone could hear it. I hadn't done anything wrong, not really. And yet there I was, being publicly shamed like a child in front of grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, everyone. I looked at my dad, then at my stepmom with that calm, satisfied expression on her face, and in that moment something inside me cracked. Was I wrong for refusing to apologize for something I didn't do? Tell me honestly, would you have bowed your head just to keep the peace? Or would you have done what I did next? It didn't start that night, even though that dinner is burned into my memory like a scar. It started years earlier, the day my mom died. I was 13, old enough to understand loss but too young to know how to survive it. My dad fell apart in his own way. He worked longer hours, came home exhausted, barely spoke. I tried to be invisible because every time I asked for something or needed comfort, I could see the pain flash across his face like I was reminding him of what he'd lost. For a while, it was just the two of us sharing a quiet, grief-filled house that smelled faintly like my mom's perfume long after it should have faded. Then my dad met her, my stepmom. At first, he seemed happier, lighter, like he could finally breathe again. I wanted that for him. I really did. When he introduced us, I tried to be polite, even hopeful. She smiled a lot, laughed at his jokes, brought homemade food when she came over. Everyone told me how lucky I was that my dad had found someone new, how I should be grateful, and at first I believed them. I thought maybe this was how families healed, but there were little things, tiny comments she'd make when my dad wasn't around, how my room was messy just like my mother used to keep it, how I was too sensitive, how I needed to learn respect if I wanted to be part of this new family. I tried to explain anything to my dad, he brushed it off. He said she was adjusting, that I needed to give her a chance. I swallowed my discomfort because I didn't want to be the reason he was unhappy again. When they got married, things changed fast, rules appeared overnight, curfews, chores, expectations that seemed designed to trip me up. If I forgot to do something, it wasn't just a mistake, it was disrespect. If I defended myself, it was talking back. And every single time, she framed it like she was just trying to help me grow into a better person. My dad backed her up. Even when I could see confusion in his eyes, he trusted her. I was just the kid. The worst part was how she did it in front of other people. Family gatherings, birthdays, holidays. She'd casually mention how difficult I was, how ungrateful, how she was doing her best, despite my attitude. People would nod sympathetically at her and look at me with disappointment. I learned to sit quietly, to smile tightly to keep my mouth shut. I learned that telling the truth only made things worse. By the time I was 16, I felt like a guest in my own home. My dad and stepmom had 2 kids together, and suddenly I was the odd one out. Their kids could do no wrong. I, on the other hand, was constantly under scrutiny. If something went missing, I was asked first. If someone was upset, it was somehow my fault. I started counting down the days until I could leave, telling myself to just survive. The dinner where everything exploded was supposed to be a celebration. My grandmother's birthday, the house was packed, loud with laughter and clinking dishes. I'd spent the whole day helping in the kitchen, trying to stay out of trouble. At one point, my stepmom asked me to watch her youngest while she stepped outside to take a call. I did. He was playing quietly with his toys. Then one of my cousins came over. They started running around, and he tripped and scraped his knee. He cried, but it wasn't serious. I cleaned him up, hugged him, and he was fine within minutes. When my stepmom came back and saw the bandage, her face hardened. She didn't yell right away. She waited until we were all seated at the table. Then, casually, like she was commenting on the weather, she said I'd been careless, that I'd let her child get hurt. The table went quiet. I tried to explain calmly that it was an accident, that he was okay, that kids fall sometimes. She interrupted me, saying I was always making excuses, that I never took responsibility. That's when my dad slammed his hand on the table and said the words that still echo in my head. You're grounded until you apologize to your stepmom. Grounded, in front of everyone, like I was a misbehaving toddler. I felt Humiliated, betrayed, exposed. I looked around the table, hoping someone would say something, anything. No one did. My stepmom didn't even look surprised. She just sat there, waiting. I stood up. My chair scraped loudly against the floor. My dad told me to sit back down. I didn't. I said quietly but clearly that I wasn't apologizing for an accident, and I wasn't apologizing for being blamed unfairly. My stepmom scoffed. My dad told me I was being disrespectful again. I grabbed my jacket and left the house, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. I spent that night at a friend's place, replaying everything over and over in my head. Part of me felt guilty. Another part felt relieved, like I'd finally done something for myself. The next day, my dad called. He told me I needed to come home and apologize if I wanted things to go back to normal. I asked him why it was always me. He said I was older, that I should know better, that I was making things harder than they needed to be. He said my stepmom was hurt by my behavior. That's the situation I was in, standing at a crossroads with no good options. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and really think about it. If you were in my place, constantly blamed, constantly dismissed, would you apologize just to keep the peace, even if it meant admitting to something you didn't do? Or would you stand your ground knowing it might cost you your place in the family? Go ahead and comment what you would have done, because at 16, it felt like my entire future depended on that choice. I didn't go home right away. I stayed with my friend for a few days, then with an aunt who finally asked me what was really going on. For the first time, I told someone everything. The comments, the favoritism. Way I always felt like I was walking on eggshells. She listened. She didn't interrupt. She didn't tell me I was overreacting. She said something that stuck with me. Keeping the peace shouldn't mean destroying yourself. Eventually, my dad came to talk to me in person. Without my stepmom, he looked tired, older than I remembered. He said he was caught in the middle, that he loved us both. I asked him why loving me always seemed to mean I had to be the one who gave in. He didn't have an answer. He asked me again to apologize, just this once, to move on. I told him I couldn't, not anymore. I said I needed him to believe me, to trust me like he used to. That conversation changed everything. I moved in with my aunt permanently. It wasn't easy. I missed my dad. I missed my siblings. I felt like I'd been exiled for telling the truth. But for the first time in years, I felt safe. No one criticized the way I breathed or walked or spoke. I focused on school. I started to heal. Fallout was messy. Some family members took my stepmom's side. Others stayed neutral. A few quietly supported me. My dad and I barely spoke for a long time. When we did, it was awkward, careful. He never apologized for that night. He never admitted he was wrong, but he did stop pushing me to apologize, and that was something. Years later, as an adult, I can see the whole picture more clearly. I understand that my dad was grieving, that he was afraid of losing another family. I understand that my stepmom wanted control, validation, maybe even competition. But understanding doesn't erase pain. It doesn't make that humiliation disappear. What I do know is this: standing up for myself changed the course of my life. It taught me that my feelings mattered, even if no one else acknowledged them at the time. It taught me that family isn't just about blood or obligation. It's about respect. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd apologized that night. Maybe things would have been quieter. Maybe I would have stayed. But I also know I would have lost a piece of myself, and I don't think I could have gotten it back. So that's my story. That's how a single sentence, shouted across a dinner table, became the moment I chose myself. If you were on my side, if you think I was right to refuse that apology, go ahead and like this video. Subscribe for more stories like this, because trust me, life has plenty of them. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. I read every single one. I'll see you all in the next